you may have had to do a little bit of embellishment, and that's okay because it fits the name,
Which,
right?
for the record, I don't know if we've mentioned your podcast name this whole episode, so I'm sorry. Welcome once again to Chill Filter, the podcast where we drink whiskey so you don't have to. And but you probably are drinking whiskey, and you probably do drink whiskey, and that's why we like it. Hey, speaking of people that like whiskey, I got Colonel John Hughes in the house. That's right. Andy Bashir. I thought it was Bashir. Yep. I looked it up once. If you can see past this glare, everyone has announced that Honorable John O. Hughes is a Kentucky colonel, commissioned a Kentucky colonel. We'll get into that in a little bit. But before we do, real quick, say some business for the week. We have been really appreciating how many people have been commenting on YouTube. Keep it up. We'll take all that stuff. We love responding. We love giving hearts on certain comments, and we just love seeing you guys being involved. It doesn't take much, helps us out, and that's great. One great way to support us this week. John O. Hughes, Colonel John O. Hughes. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty good. And you should have told them that they should also Patreon you so they can be a part of the drink alongs, because those are also another fantastic way to participate, share some things that are going on, and drink some fantastic whiskeys. I know, was it last Sunday? Yeah. Was it really just last Sunday? We got to do the JT Mellick. Mm-hmm. And I want to thank you guys, because I passed on that bottle when it very first hit the market, and I was like, I really want to try it, but I'm also trying to there's too many things going on in this room as it is. And I'm like, I'm just not going to.
I get that.
And I have regretted it since then. So I finally had the opportunity to try it. So
what did you think? Did you give it a score?
Yeah. So my score, if I score it as a bourbon, right? Mm-hmm. I had a bourbon and a rye whiskey score, or rice whiskey. As a rice whiskey, it's got to be in the 9s, because I have only had one other one.
Whiskey. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had the, not even a rice whiskey, a bourbon with rice in it, which was the Jim Beam Signature Craft 11 year that they did, oodles of years ago. And I think this one it kicks it right on its butt. And
it's impressive.
But if I compared it against bourbons, it's probably in the high 7, low 8, but I don't know what to think of rice whiskeys.
If this was a bourbon, this would be like a stag, in my opinion, like a Stag Junior kind of feel.
Yeah.
Like it was rich. Like it was, I mean, not as fruity maybe, but it was like that kind of caliber, in my opinion.
It was absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah. No, I'm dope. I'm stoked because, John is on the receiving end of Patreon, and we're on the receiving end, but we're not making money at this point. So he is on the receiving end of Patreon. So that's what it's all about, people.
Yeah, these things are not money making opportunities. Yeah. I was watching another friend that has another podcast, and he does Patreon as well. And he was talking about, thanks for all of this. Apparently this whole thing is expensive. It is expensive. So, nobody's getting rich off this, maybe except for the Fred Minnix of the world.
Mm-hmm.
But none of us are there.
Yeah, exactly. What are you entry buzzing on?
Well, I started with, so I'm on my second one, and that sounds like I'm a little bit of a lush, but I've been working on tasting notes, right? So I've been trying to build this backlog, and I'm gonna sit down and record a whole bunch of tasting notes that no one really cares about, because it's my palate and not yours, and my palate's different than yours.
Totally.
But I started with the Penelope Rosé cask that they got this year. This year's it's batch 8. I got a sample of it in the mail a few days ago, and I try to taste everything 3 times, write my notes across all 3 times, because sometimes you eat Taco Bell for lunch and then your whiskey doesn't taste good at dinner time.
Yep.
But this one, what's in this particular glass right here, is a Casey Jones single barrel that I helped pick
nice
a couple months ago. It's their first 5-year wheated. It's a local distillery. It's like 45 minutes from my house. Nice. And they've been in business for like 10 or 11 years roughly. And they've got a fantastic story, but they reached out and they're like, hey, we'd love for you to come and join a couple of other influencers. I don't want to influence that many people, and do a single barrel pick. And everybody in our group, there was a whole bunch of people that were part of it that did it virtually. And there were some of us that were in person, and we were pretty unanimous. The Bourbon Road was in person, and then another guy who's an Instagram guy called Big Whiskey. But then Louisville Bourbon Buzz was one of the virtual tasters that helped pick on it. So
nice. Good crew. Dude, I've only been a part of one pick.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but hopefully more to come.
That, might be a good reason to also be a part of Patreon in case there's picks to come out that you might have an opportunity to pick up.
John's got a good point, everyone, because we're just gonna. I mean, we've already said it out loud, but Foul North, we're on their, apparently towards the top of their list of being on the barrel pick, and we're hoping to make it a part, if we can, hoping to make it a part of the Patreon, but even a meetup. Basically, so Bryan is at the hospital right now. Who knows if Chickpea was born at this point? It's actually a crapshoot. Probably shouldn't say that about a child. But baby Chickpea could be out of the womb, ex utero, and then basically I told Bryan, I was like, hey, give it a month after baby and we'll decide, hey, do we need to push it out 6 months? Do we need to push it out a year for the meetup? But we're going to plan it soon.
Yeah. So and honestly, it may be 2 months before he really even knows which way is up. I know first, for the first child, the first 6 to 8 weeks for me were just topsy-turvy, right? Because, I've read a lot of things about it, for the woman in the scenario, she's feeling the baby move around inside of her. It's real from her very early on, but for a lot of men, it's not real until you like hold the human being, and man, it's a trip. It's a complete trip.
Dude. My harder transition was the second. I had this capacity, I'll call it, for the first, where it was like, all right, this is my life now. And I'm like, like wrapping my arms around that new life. But then with the second, it's like, my capacity is on the first and focused on their safety, their love, all these different things. And then the second comes out, I'm like, oh crap, I got to split this. That was hard for me. I mean, you're a father of 2 girls. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I worried about that, but then 6 months after the second child was born, it felt like somehow there was like like another gear that you find, or a new level of capacity.
You're absolutely right.
Where you're like, hey, I'm going to be splitting my attention, but your attention actually grows, right? And it may be because
your capacity.
It's a man. Kids are a weird thing. Like the thought of like having this thing that you have to take care of that is just actively trying to die, right? That's just like the human baby is very frail.
It's tricky. And then when I think about it, it's like, I'm grateful to be a girl dad. Hashtag shout out all the girl dads out there, including yourself, John. Because I see some of these boys play and I'm like, they're straight up actively trying to die. Like,
I know what I did whenever I was playing with my brother and my cousins, and for sure, like, there's going to be there'll be some adjustments later on in life that you'll have to make, based off being a girl dad. But little boys seem like a holy terror. We go to the pool and you see them, like, hey, I'm gonna, do a quadruple backflip and barely miss the edge.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I used to set up. We had a bunch of pillows, and we had this long couch, and I would put all these pillows on the arm of the large, long couch, and then I would see how many I could do the high jump over. And looking back, I'm like, that was pretty dangerous, but I turned out all right. I didn't ever hurt myself. I landed on the couch, but it was kind of fun. Those were the days.
Yeah, no, I was a child of the 80s, and so oftentimes we were just given like, here's a machete, go play in the woods behind the house for a few hours. It was a real feral existence.
There's got to be someone out there who's thinking the same thing as me, but Nacho Libre quote incoming. He's like, my grandmother's lucky machete.
Yep,
that's what was given to you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was one that came from my grandfather's house. It was out in our shop behind our house, and it was key to cutting a path and making all sorts of traps. To trap whatever, great. Not like animals, just like other people that might be trying to get into our
booby traps. Yeah, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, I did pull this off, and I am so grateful I did. Or, I mean, I'm grateful I did, but I'm so grateful it went through and everything was like cool. Basically told Andy that like this dude's a baller, and he's like, yeah, put him through. No, I said, you're doing great things for the great state of Kentucky and Kentucky bourbon, and good father, good man, community kind of guy. And so he was like, yeah.
It's funny because I was actually talking to my wife about this like 3 or 4 months ago, like the idea of doing a Kentucky Colonel. And I have a friend who had one in his office, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like we've always known about the Kentucky Colonel thing, but it's like, you can't nominate yourself for it. And honestly,
exactly.
if you could, should you? That's a little weird. You're like, I'm the best.
And then you didn't even know it was coming until you got an email or a piece of mail that was like, "Hey, Kentucky Colonel." Well, I was supposed to surprise you, for the record.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and the thing, what I saw on social media today is, the Whiskey Tribe.
Yeah, I love them. Love them.
So the guy that's not on Whiskey Tribe anymore, Whittington,
Daniel,
Rex,
I love him.
Or Daniel.
So did he split? Because I follow him.
So he works for the distillery still, but can't do the TV show based off of. It's a weird thing. So he still works. But anyways, he just got his Kentucky Colonelship this week as well.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
dude, I love him.
Good company.
Did you ever watch his like solo videos? He'll be so real. I was telling Bryan the other day, I'm like, you need to watch his videos because he's so real. Like he's the type of guy that I'm like that's what we want to be on the podcast, and what we've always tried to be is just real. Right. Maybe not as like he can get down to it quick, but I'm always like, I'm not gonna fake who I am on this podcast. Like, and neither do you.
And I think for him, it's like it's like an efficiency thing for him because he does so many different things. He doesn't have time to try to and he doesn't have to anymore. He carries enough reputation that he doesn't have to be overtly nice about things. I took my team on a work retreat to Austin a couple years ago, and we obviously went out to Fang and Feather. I mean, like they don't care, but I do. Yeah. And he was sitting at like a table just like right over there, and I'm like,
did you introduce yourself?
Not even, no, because I was trying to take care of my team, like as a work thing. So I'm trying to take care
you wouldn't
of
have been, they would be like, oh, so John wanted to come here just to geek out and like personally, not like as a team.
Now I told him afterwards, I was like, that was part of the reason, but they had a good time too. But I wanted to be like, it's the guy, but none of them would understand. 0% of the people with me would have been oh, I get it now.
Yeah. That's actually, so in terms of like being a full-time, not full-time, you know what I mean? Like being not a supporter, just a fan and a follower is probably a better word of certain creators.
Yep.
He's probably one of my go-tos, even beyond the Whiskey Tribe. Like I would watch his videos more than the Whiskey Tribe any day.
Yeah, the Whiskey Tribe is more entertainment, and his stuff is entertainment, but also there's a little bit of education to it.
Yeah, you kind of got this feeling that like Daniel doesn't fit into that vibe of the Whiskey Tribe stuff anymore.
Well, he played the straight man, right? Like, so if you think about like any comedy, he played the straight man portion of it, which is what made it great.
Yeah. He was
because now there's two goons, right? Which is still fun, right? Like that. That's
and they've been killing it for a while. Speaking of, probably ones that are making money off of their, following. They're probably, I mean, didn't they basically start the distillery based on like funding from?
So it is crowdfunded for sure. I think it's through their Patreon and through a couple of other things. I think that's one of their taglines is like the only distillery that's a crowdfunded distillery.
Yeah.
That also crowdfunds some of their decision making. That's a part of it.
That's cool.
It was it's an offshoot of their school, and they have an education component on premise that's like a Wizards University, but it's for like whiskey and spirits, and they do a whole bunch of like really in depth like sommelier type training, but for spirits. So
I love that. Because he is a sommelier, isn't he, Daniel? Like a
and a whiskey
sommelier.
Like he's a wine sommelier, but he's also a whiskey sommelier, which they created, and they have like it's not cheap, man. It's like wine sommelier to become a whiskey sommelier. It is. You're talking. I think it's like a $4,000 or $5,000 investment. Bottom
Dang, line. And I saw that it was like one of the. I saw the requirements and like kind of how to pass. One of the biggest requirements was storytelling ability. I'm like, it's amazing. That's exactly what bourbon is and like whiskey is. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. Did I tell you? Yeah, I'm entry buzzing on Michter's 10 Rye from 21E. But yeah, we didn't even mention what we're drinking today. We were drinking Michter's 10-year bourbon 24A. So this is 2024 from, I guess, the A warehouse or something like that. But
yeah,
there's
I
usually
didn't
like
look up
one
the
or
why
two
of
per
it.
year. What's
Yeah,
that?
I said I didn't. I always look at those codes, and then I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to look that up today, and I always put it off till
Yeah.
tomorrow, and then I never have. Like 5 years later.
Yeah. It's not as easy as Heaven Hills, like Elijah Craig's and Larcenies and all that stuff, where it's like, oh, I get that, makes sense. And like, what's the other one? Is there another one that I'm thinking of? I think that might be it.
Yeah, I think they're the only ones. I mean, Booker's does theirs, but it's just
it's pretty obvious.
01/24, 02/24, so forth. So they don't even have it. It's not even months. It's just the part of the series.
Yeah,
I think that's the only ones I can think of.
I think that's it.
There's probably another one. That's an opportunity for someone to get in the comments and tell us how we're wrong.
Exactly. Yeah, hit us up, write a review, and say we meander and we're completely inaccurate. And I think that's what it is. Yeah. So that's who we are. Yeah. Hopefully genuine, but also meander and completely inaccurate. That's us.
Well, if that's what you're going for, you brought the right person to be a part of the conversation. If you want to meander and you want to be inaccurate, you invited the right person.
Yeah. Hey, 2 great minds think on the same podcast episode.
Yes. That's the title. I mean, that's easy enough. It definitely hits all the SEO components. Won't feel clickbaity. Yeah, be perfect.
Yeah. Speaking of which, our listeners or our viewers probably have seen by now, but I love the thumbnail we already have for this episode. John's in a Kentucky Colonel uniform, and I'm saluting. It's great. But yeah, congrats on being a colonel.
Yeah, thank you so much. It really is a meaningful thing. I assume you're going to hang that on your wall, and then when people be like, "Who's this?" and you can tell the story of who I am.
Yeah, exactly. I should copy it and just keep my own copy of it. But no, of course I am sending it to you. But I did want to present it on the podcast, so I waited. But in the meantime, you're getting mail. So
now, one other question I did have. So I was looking at. Are you and I in the same flight, or is it me and Bryan in the same flight?
Oh, it's me and
on
you.
Mad Men.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can be friends today, but it's mortal enemies after that's over, right?
Dude, I hope so much we face each other. I think Bryan said maybe how it works, but it's like you'll have to face the guy above you, and if you beat him,
it's a ladder bracket. I would have to work my way through. It's like boss levels, it's like Mario. I gotta make it through level 1, 2, 3.
Than what Bryan was explaining.
I think I don't know for sure. That's just my guess.
No, that's cool. I would love to, John. And like me and Bryan have been practicing. And last year I didn't do too bad. I still
you did better than not too bad. You did good. Like what?
Dude, it took me 3 episodes to be like, maybe I am good at this.
Right.
But it was fun. I'm really looking forward to it though. Like
I think regardless of the outcome, it'll be a fun time.
Oh, absolutely. And that was like my goal last year was like, hey, I want to present myself genuinely and then have fun. And that was it. And then I got to present myself genuinely 3 times. And so that was good.
There definitely is not a spreadsheet on my computer that tracks the questions and answers over the last 3 years. Okay. When he asks proof, the average proof is this. When he asks whether it's bourbon or rye, more often than not, it's that. There's definitely not a spreadsheet on my computer that tracks.
So here's the crazy thing, John, and I'm going to say it on live, whatever, but there is a way to play Matt Madness where you read between the lines and and I'm just going to leave it there. That there are certain things that are not asked that you're able to work with. So, and that wasn't how I did well last year, but since then I've realized like, hey, he didn't ask this and he could have asked this.
Right.
So I hope you kill it. I hope you beat me, but I hope I beat you by 1 point.
Right.
But more so, listeners, I hope that our love of spirit. I know.
That was the quickest episode ever. Almost no editing.
Yeah, exactly. We didn't even have a break. Anything else before we get into the history segment of this show?
I'm sure there probably is something else, but we're don't.
Full of digressions and inaccuracies, so we will make it work. Yeah. So, okay. We will be right back after this short break. We'll talk about some of the history and the fun facts of Michter's distillery. But before we do anything, let's go to a quick break. And we're back. We had a good time. Nice little walk. I walked out to Murray, Texas. Or not Texas. Murray, Kentucky.
You went too far.
Probably
You're
going to
have
Texas,
to come back
knowing
east.
Texas.
I'm quite sure there is.
Yeah. What's the is it Murray State? What's the is that what it is?
Yeah, it's Murray State University. It's a little mid-major. The fun thing is, Murray's not a state. It is just the city of Murray's State University that is the Kentucky's only public Ivy.
Oh, really?
Ivy. That was some marketing branding that somebody came up with.
I like that. It's better than Murray State from Texas. Murray State of Texas University. Where did you go to school?
Murray State.
Okay, cool. Yep. Did you grow up in that area?
So I lived here most of my life, and then we moved to Lexington, Kentucky for a handful of years. Mom was going to pharmacy school at UK.
Nice.
So she went up there for a year, and then we moved up for 2 years and moved back, and then she stayed for one more year as she did her residency. I don't really know what pharmacists do after school, but something like that.
PharmD, as in PharmD's nuts.
Absolutely. I feel weird saying that though,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I get that. What was I thinking? Okay, yeah. So I've been to Lexington quite a few times. Actually, I've been to Lexington more than any other Kentucky city.
Why are you coming to Lexington so many times?
I have friends there. That was really what it was. Yeah, people that went to UK, basically. So.
Gotcha.
And then, basically I would make these treks across the country, and 8 hours from Richmond is Lexington. So it's like the perfect one-day stop. And I still get, my friends, actually, he moved to Chicago, my friend. Shout out to Greg Campbell.
I'm going to Chicago in like 2 weeks. I'll say hi. I don't know where he is. I'll just lean out into Chicago and say hi. I got a work trip. We've got some things going on. We're meeting some clients up there. We're going to go see a White Sox game, have meetings, do all those things.
I just had a work trip to Cleveland area, and we got to see a Guardians game. It was kind of fun, but it was so hot. It was like 93 degrees out there.
We're going to get a box, so that way we have some air conditioning.
Good. Dude, that's a great
We would
idea.
do the Cubs, but they're not in town that night. So.
Oh, for sure. Actually, I have a friend that works for the White Sox. Which one's Wrigley Field? Is that the White Sox?
No, that's Cubs.
Okay, so he works for the Cubs.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and if I ever go out there, he'll be like, I'll give you tickets for a game. So, but probably not a box, which is nice.
That's a corporate expense.
That's cool. I'm into corporate expenses. Don't let my boss hear that.
I am, as long as it doesn't impact the year-end bonus.
Yes, exactly.
Don't let my boss hear that.
My company now, so I work in insurance, and insurance is judged differently on financials. But there's something we call a combined ratio, which has to do with how bad your losses were versus how much premium you brought in, but it also takes into account expenses. And everyone in my prior companies would always be like, but the expense ratio, which is like expenses divided by premium, basically. But my company now is like, no, you can come out 4 times a year and get a rental car, get a hotel stay, like all these different things where they're like, no, we don't really, they care about the expense ratio, but they're not like,
as long as it makes sense, keep doing it, right? Because it's going to help the business.
So, I go only twice or maybe 3 times a year. But they're like, you can come out 4 times a year and just use it up. And I'm putting everything on the corp card because it's like, I'm on business, so it's funny. I've never had that before in a company. Okay. Shout out to Bryan Rapp, who probably is going to have his baby today. So, hey, it is June 27th, 2024. And Chickpea, if you look back on this episode that was recorded on your birthday, cheers to you. Just wait a few more years until you can drink. And that's the business, or that's the notes to get to. So let's talk about Michter's 10-year bourbon. This is not our first Michter's episode. In fact, this is not our first Michter's 10-year bourbon episode. In fact, one of our first episodes ever, episode 6. We're on 314 now. Episode 6, we drank a 2016 vintage of Michter's 10-year bourbon. My, how things have changed. Since then, we've done 4 more Michter's episodes, including 2 10-year ryes. And I've heard good things about this bottle. I got it at an ABC Virginia drop where I had to wait in line in the rain for at least 3.5 hours. Was it worth it? Haven't tried it yet. I like to try things fresh on the podcast, and me and John get to find out today. Now, in terms of history, we've covered a lot in the 5 prior Michter's episodes. Mm-hmm. Everything from their like Pennsylvania roots to Shanks and Bombergers and Lou Foreman, Joe Magliocco. Today, we will just be having some Michter's fun facts. So kind of all over the place. You may have heard this before. And actually, I wanted to ask you, John, did they pronounce it Michters at the distillery?
They absolutely did not.
I thought so.
If somebody's pronouncing it Michters, we can fight.
They're drunk. We'll
fight them. We'll
yeah,
fight.
Exactly. Yeah, but you know, in the 1950s, Lou Foreman, the guy who officially changed the distillery's name to Michters, had 2 sons. One was Michael and one was Peter. And mixing the 2 names, you get Michters. But no one cares. So I'm glad I got to ask you about that one because I had very much thought it was the case, but now it's confirmed.
Yep.
Another fun fact, Michters these days does distill as they have a distillery in Shively. And what's Shively's motto, John Hughes? Lively and Shively.
Oh, is it? I was not aware of that.
No, it's probably not their motto, but they do have
that is not a detail they gave us on the tour.
Well, I always wondered if it was pronounced Shively or something like that, but then I found out because it was Lively and Shively. Yep. How far is Shively from you? Because that's just south of Louisville, right?
Yeah, Louisville's somewhere between 3 hours and 15 minutes, 3 hours and 45 minutes, depends on traffic.
Like northeast of you? Because you're like southwest. Yep. Yeah.
I am like the boot of Kentucky. I am.
Yeah, you're like where it gets that little you know, what do we call it in the jewelry business? A burr shows up on the.
We haven't had the burr sanded off yet and made us fall into Tennessee. So that's good.
How far are you from MB Roland again?
So MB Roland is hour and 10 minutes.
Okay,
roughly
to the like directly.
I have
east,
to go.
Right?
I have to go like east and then down a little bit, right?
Oh,
because
gotcha. Okay,
because
cool.
they are on. Well, I guess
they're like near the border,
north and then they are just miles from the border.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, not too far from Nashville, you know, when it's like
they're
really
close to Fort Campbell, which is an Army fort there. In Clarksville, Tennessee. So they're probably 35 minutes from Nashville. Something like that. Oh,
that's great.
Yep.
I like Nashville. I've only been there once, I think.
I used to like Nashville.
Until the accident.
That's a whole digression.
No, hey, they're welcome here. If you ever want to just go.
It's a brand new digression, but about 20 years ago, Nashville became the bachelorette party central of the nation.
Oh, yeah.
People
like
fly
Scottsdale,
in there.
Arizona.
Yeah, and so that's the closest international airport. So when I travel for work, I have to go in, and so I'm either leaving or coming back with a plane full of either hungover bridesmaids or getting drunk bridesmaids.
You ever watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yes,
the Woo Girls.
Yeah, I got on a flight in Boise, Idaho.
I love
Boise, Idaho.
You pronounced it wrong.
I connected in Boise, sorry. Anyways, we connected in Salt Lake, and when we got on the plane in Boise, there was a Nashville native sitting next to me, and they got on, and he goes, "Oh God, it's the Woo Woo Girls." And I looked up, I put my AirPods in, and I didn't hear them for the rest of the flight. They followed me onto the next plane, and
oh no,
that the guy from Nashville, he was on this connecting flight as well, and we kind of made eye contact, like, yeah, this is our life now.
So you said that Nashville is your closest airport, big airport.
Closest national,
yeah. How far a drive? You said it was maybe an hour and a half? Okay,
two-ish. Well, it depends on how busy traffic is, because they also don't know how to do traffic. They have no public transportation in Nashville, so everybody has a car, so it means it doesn't go well. But I usually plan 2.5 hours on just the low end to get to Nashville.
Huh. I never really thought about that, because like Richmond, like everywhere I've lived, it's been like Except for when I lived in Colorado Springs. There is a Colorado Springs airport, but we usually went to
more
Denver
of a regional
for cheaper flights.
Yeah.
And that was only an hour and 20 minutes. But I don't think I've ever traveled more than like that for an airport. Yep. So you're in the country.
Pain. It's absolutely a pain.
Yeah. No, that's funny. Where did I leave off? Nashville. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And it's very touristy in that way. But I did enjoy the side quests of Nashville. I hit up this one. I couldn't tell you the name of it. I hit up this one speakeasy. Really liked it. Really liked it. They were basically, they had no menu, cocktail bar, no menu. And it was great. You're just like, hey, I feel like
the red phone booth?
Yes. That sounds right. Sounds right. Yeah.
It's one of the only legitimately still speakeasies. I say legitimately, but like you usually have to get your the code to get in through the concierge at a hotel or whatever.
Nice.
It's a pretty fun place.
That's
and
cool.
They do absinthe the right way with the drip over the thing, you know.
Ooh.
I don't like absinthe, but somebody that was with me did it. So
hey, that would have been my jam. Is like someone else do it, I'll watch, and then I'll drink.
I'm not going to drink any of that.
Yeah, exactly. Do you like Sazerac cocktails if you don't like absinthe?
Yeah. No, I do like that. I like it as an accent note. I don't like it as I'm going to put all of this in my mouth.
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you 100%. And I didn't even like black licorice, but I like Sazeracs for sure.
Yeah, I don't. Black licorice it's not a candy. That's a punishment.
Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts. Okay. Another fun fact. These days, they do distill, like I said, in Shively. But what we're drinking today is likely not their own distillate, as they've only been doing distilling in Shively since 2014. Yes, that is about 10 years, but I have a good feeling that what is in this bottle did not come from Shively, unless it were the BF Shively, because the Brown Foreman has a big place in Shively, don't they? Am I crazy?
Yeah.
But I doubt
also this is likely older than 10 years as well. Right? This is probably older than 10. This is probably older than 10, because if you go back 2 years, they did not, I think it's 2 years, 3 years. They didn't do a 10-year release because they didn't think that it was ready enough. And so then that 10-year became an 11-year release.
And everyone pushed
back. Did everything behind that get pushed back as well? Or did they just put out a bunch of 10-year that they didn't? So likely this is older. This is just me guessing.
Yeah, no, totally. But, even if it were 10 years at Shively, I doubt they would put their first release out as a 10-year or their, first batch.
Not without some pomp and circumstance. I feel like that's the thing. You're like, hey, this is our 10-year,
So have you tried Willett's juice lately, or at least their rye juice lately?
So I haven't. You have the pot still bottle conversation, and everybody's like, it's awful. And I've had a few friends that have tried it recently and said, actually, it's not so bad now, right? But I also have not had any of their rye that I didn't buy more than like 4 years ago, as it is.
Yeah, so that's my thing. Is I got a 4-year rye recently, and it was terrible. And I love Willett rye, like Family Estate rye.
Yeah.
But it was like, you could tell this is their own juice now, which is
what a bummer.
Good and bad. It's like good for you guys, but this is also not what I'm used to.
Please do better. Yeah, please do better.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't like, it was pretty bad, but I could drink Willett used to do a 2-year Family Estate rye. I could drink that easily. But yeah, their recent distillate has been okay. But anyway, yes. We don't know where they're getting their juice, though. But it does say Kentucky Straight Bourbon on it. So we can assume it is Kentucky bourbon juice, not like Indiana or MGP or something like that. When Willie Pratt, their prior master distiller, he passed in 2021. Pour a little bit out for the homie. Sure, it was a great dude. I didn't mean that as disrespect. I just don't like to pour whiskey on my lap.
Right. I was looking for a place to pour, and I'm like, electronics are everywhere. This is not happening today.
I have poured some out on my lap for certain people. When Willie Pratt passed in 2021, which he's apparently still on their website as their master distiller 3 years later, a woman named Pam Heilman took over for the brand as the master distiller. I love seeing women in distiller roles. It's technically not uncommon these days, but I would say it's a male-dominated sport. Whiskey is, and and I love to see women killing it in big deal roles in the industry. So good for you, Pam. She used to get this. She used to run the Booker No Distillery out in Boston, Kentucky. Not Claremont, not like Jim Beam. But she used to run that, but they are connected, of course, with Jim Beam. She picked up the fictive title of Dr. No, which Willie Pratt was called when he was the gatekeeper of good whiskey at Michter's. And they say that because being the gatekeeper, you got to say no. Like, you got to say this one's not ready or this one's not good. And I respect that for a whiskey, to be able to say, hey, this isn't ready yet. It's not what we want yet. Lastly, their Louisville distillery, which from what I hear is more of a touristy thing than like an actual distillery site. Took 8 years to build and over $8 million to build. It's like on Main Street or something. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's a really neat facility, and a lot of the money went into retaining the facade, right? And so they basically gutted out the building, but retained the outer shell, which is really tough to do, especially with brick, right? So it's like take away all of the wall that's actually holding it up, and figure a way to brace it. It's a beautiful facility. They have it is absolutely a little more touristy. They do some distillation.
Wait, did you just say
in the building?
Touristy? Like
I'm trying to go
syllable word.
I'm trying to go back and forth between tour and tour and tour.
Okay,
right.
But what would you typically say? Would you say touristy?
Tour.
Okay. You'd say it right.
I think. I don't know.
It's okay.
Now I'm thinking about it too much, right?
You alternate. Right. No, but go on. Tell me more about the Louisville site.
Yeah, so they do a handful of experiences there. They'll put out some limited allocation stuff. They do the bottle your own experience, which you've got to like people will line up for that thing, right?
Is it is it cut? All right, is the whiskey cut?
So yeah,
it's not like barrel proof or anything.
Yeah, no, it's not. I don't know. I'd have to grab my bottle. I can't remember. I can't remember.
Is it good?
It is, and you get it's a special bottling. I think it says Fort Nelson on it because that's the Fort Nelson
that sounds location. Right. Yeah.
It doesn't carry the standard Michter's label.
Yeah. No, that's cool. I love that. So when did you got to go with some friends recently?
Yeah, so it was like 2 years ago. 3 years ago almost at this point. Anyways, a friend of mine, another podcaster, David from Whiskey My Wedding Ring, he did an episode with I think it's Andrea Phillips. I think that's their master of maturation, maybe.
Okay.
Sometime before, and she was like, hey, if you're ever in Louisville, let us know, and we'd love to host you. And so he knew he was going to be in Lexington for an event that I was going to be at as well, and he kind of kicked the message out in the Discord, and he was like, hey, anybody want to join me for a tour? It's on a Sunday after the event is over. I'm like, absolutely, I would love to go do that. And so we go in and we do the tour around the place. We got to bottle our own, which was super cool. We got to go upstairs and have cocktails, which was super, super cool. And we got a tasting, and that was the moment, right? And David had known they were going to do something special for us. He just didn't know what it was, and it was for him as well. And so they ran us through a tasting, and I've got these discs. So if you see me looking down, I'm not ignoring you. No, you got to remember what it was. They had these little discs that they give you with the tasting, right? And so they kind of walk you through. And so we got the straight bourbon, the unblended American, the rye, and the sour mash, and then the 10-year rye and the 10-year bourbon, which was the would have been the 22. 221, whatever year it was that we were there, we got to taste through those items, and that was super fun. We were all excited to be able to taste the 10 years because you don't always get an opportunity to taste the 10 years. Sometimes you do if you have fancy friends like I do. So thank you for letting me taste some 10 year. And then they started kind of kicking it up a notch, and so they bring out another little disc for us, which is the 20-year.
Are you kidding
bourbon
me?
That they did.
So crazy.
Yeah, which we all the whiskey nerds get excited, and we're like, awesome, we're gonna taste 20-year bourbon, which is a rarity and it's expensive. And if you go upstairs into their cocktail bar and order a neat pour of it, it's a car payment. You're drinking a car payment effectively. it is what it is.
Even at their, gift shop or their site, it's like,
I mean, most of these places, they don't price it as if it's their own juice. They price it as if they are just another bar, because they're not trying to compete with the local bar scene, right? And so if they priced it way under, then people would flock to them instead of visiting other bars, and they're an experience. They're not there for the bar. But they didn't stop there. They were like, hey, here's one more. And this gentleman comes out, and he's got white gloves on, and he's holding the bottle. And
with
I caught a glimpse of
top to it.
It was, all right. So we had seen it. We had actually even joked, right? There was a bottle that was like sitting up on a shelf, and we were like, hey, if you look the other way just for like 30 seconds, we'll be okay, right? We're joking about stealing it. We're going to take it. We're going to take a sip off of it or whatever.
Yeah.
No one actually believed that was going to happen, but they bring out the disc, and they gave us an opportunity to taste the 2019 celebration that day.
That's crazy.
There's no other way to get a room full of whiskey nerds to shut up than to do something like that. Everybody just sits down. We're like making eye contact, drinking. We're not even doing tasting notes. We're not doing all the whiskey geek things that you're required to do.
Just sitting back, looking at each other,
enjoying a moment with friends, which is what it's all about, right?
It is.
And tasting something we're never going to taste again. That particular celebration release has anything from 10 to beyond 30-year bourbon in it.
That's crazy.
And it was phenomenal. It's probably one of the best whiskeys I've ever had in my life. Really? Could be the moment. It could be the moment. It could be that it was, but it doesn't matter because my memory is solidified. It's one of the best whiskeys I've ever had.
Yeah, I love that. That's so cool.
Yeah, I was just about to... I'm forever in debt to David and his generosity.
No, that's great. How many people were there out of your crew?
I think there was either 8 or 10 of us.
That's great. That's a memory right there.
Yeah, and even if they pour a 1/10 of an ounce, right? If a person goes out and they figure out how much a 2019 celebration bottle costs, and you figure out what a 1/10 of an ounce costs, and it was more than a 1/10 of an ounce. It was probably a 1/4 ounce pour.
Still,
just whatever, man. I can't top that experience.
That's cool. I love that. Did you know, final factoid of the episode, did you know they sell a 25-year rye?
I think that somewhere, it's one of those, you say yes, and then you say, well, I know everything. I feel like I knew that, but also I've never seen it.
I forgot. I heard it once, but I forgot. But could you imagine, like, with their bourbons and their, like, 25? I've actually had a 25-year-old rye before. Jefferson's Presidential.
Yep.
Really good. There's one at the bar I used to work at to this day because they charge like $250 a pour basically for it. But when I worked there, it costs the 5-finger discount. No, I'm kidding. But it costs, hey, if I want to recommend this to people, I'm going to let them know. I need to know what it tastes like.
How am I going to sell what I don't know how good it is?
Yeah. Screw the ABC. But sometimes I enjoy the ABC. What's that?
Yeah, it's just evaporation, right? Like
exactly.
ABC. It's uncorked. It's going to evaporate.
As I was pouring it on the whiskey mat or the bar mat.
I mean, I'd drink out of that bar mat with a 25-year rye
at the bar I worked at. Yeah. I mean, you could mix a bunch of good stuff and make a cocktail of very expensive whiskey in that bar mat. Yes, so they sell a 25-year-old rye. We do know about the 20-year bourbon, 25-year bourbon, and the celebration, which usually is between about 20 and 30 years of age stuff. But yeah, they do a 25-year rye. I've never seen a bottle ever. I have seen every bottle in person. I've only never drank above the 10-year though, except for the rye. I've seen the celebration, the 25 and the 20. From what I saw online, it was like minimum, and I'm not like good at the secondary. I don't really have any access to the real secondary, but I was seeing some things for like $20,000 for like the 25-year rye.
I'm looking at one right now for $35,000.
Crazy. Yeah. But it's like that's intriguing. But you could buy a car.
40 grand. Yeah. This is where we're at, is $30,000 or $40,000.
You could buy a reasonably priced car for that money. So what we're drinking today, Michter's 10-year bourbon 24A. This is a single barrel. Oh, did I say single barrel? I meant single barrel. It is 94.4 proof, which is the standard for the 10-year or 10-year bourbons. I think it's the same for the 10-year rye. 92.8 is the ryes, but 94.4 is the bourbons. Barrel number is 24A0070. That's a fun number there. 3 zeros. It's like 0070.
Yeah, I was gonna say just smudge off that last zero and you got a 007 bottle.
James Bond bottle, but he's into like Macallan. 10 years. Mash bill undisclosed.
I'm gonna absolutely stop you there because I digress again. See, it depends. Are you talking about movie James Bond or are you talking about book James Bond? Because book James Bond,
what was the guy?
Was into bourbon.
Oh, really? What was?
Yeah, at any point in time,
Fleming, Andy,
Ian Fleming. And the only reason I know this is because I had a tasting that I had put together where the common thread was these are all whiskeys that were mentioned in either a James Bond movie or a James Bond book, right? And they were all, it was like Jack Daniels and it was Old Granddad and I can't remember what the other one. I.W. Harper. So I.W. Harper, really? Those were all mentioned either in the books or in the earlier movies.
Wow.
So James Bond likes American whiskey too.
I love that. Actually, you know what's funny? I was thinking about James Bond like today, I think. You know who would kill it? You know, they're like prepping up the next who's gonna replace Daniel Craig, who's gonna be the next director. And a lot of people agree with me. And actually I found something out recently that made it even cooler. But Christopher Nolan would destroy it, like as a director of a 3 Bond series and then move on, similar to like The Dark Knight. But here's why. Well, yeah, he just is a decent writer. I actually do think that some of the better James Bond movies are lacking in writing, and he does decently with writing. But then also, he recently said in an interview, he said that would be an honor to be asked to do that. I'm like, yes, so it could happen. Like, he'd be down if someone told, you know. So I was like, that'd be so cool. And I don't know who the next Bond dude would be, but as long as like it could be another Dark Knight trilogy kind of feel, I'd be like sold. Yeah. And I'm not a huge Bond guy. I recently watched Skyfall and I was like, it was good, but it was like very lacking in story to me. But still good. Yeah.
See, I grew up with Sean Connery as my Bond, and then Pierce Brosnan was the next step. We all skipped was it Roger Moore and Timothy Dalton? Nobody cared about those guys. There's a generation of people that like that or whatever. But Daniel Craig was a really nice refresh on James Bond, I think.
That's what I hear. And people are like, a blonde Bond? And yes, he did a decent job. Yeah, I don't know who I heard like Idris Elba might be like considered or something like that, like where it was like something very different than the standard Bond, but still British, of course. So
right.
Yeah, undisclosed mash bill. I would bet my money there's at least 51% corn in here, though. Anyone can take that bet at any point. And that's all we got. So let's pour it out for the homies, for us, the homies. Oops, dang it. I guess I've never seen under the cap. That's what the cap looks like without the wax.
Huh. Oh, you had one pop off?
Yeah. I've never, I always like, even for this, you know, of course, the wax still stays on it. Yeah, but I'm grateful to share the start and pour with John Hughes right here. Would you guess that they use the same source for all the Michter's 10 years over the years?
I mean, yes. I mean, where else are you going to get a consistent source of aged whiskey? I know it's been rumored for a long time that it was Brown-Forman.
But Shively.
Yeah, that's the thought.
This doesn't give me the Brown-Forman notes, though. I mean, we'll find out because it's been a while since I've actually had the bourbon.
It doesn't, but it does. It would make sense to me if Brown-Forman was like, "Hey, here's our aged whiskey that doesn't meet our flavor profile.
Yeah,
you have access to it, right?
That'd be sweet. That's like Weller Millennium. It's like you get these super old weeded Buffalo Trace, and they're like, well, it probably didn't fit the Pappy or Weller profile, so let's just throw it in a big batch and sell it for like $8,000. So yeah, that's my theory. Yeah, and I don't think it's a crazy theory.
No, I think you're on it.
Oh, that's great. Definitely is fruity on the nose.
So we get to are we supposed to be on the microphone so people can hear me smelling? Is that the? They love that part.
Yeah, that's their favorite part. That's why people keep coming back.
If I can give you some good mouth noises into the microphone, that'll just complete the ASMR nightmare.
Yeah,
in the whiskey tasting.
Mm-hmm. Do you hear about the announcement of E.H. Taylor rye, barrel proof rye today? One of their limited editions.
I had heard rumblings that was going to be the case.
Well, it was supposed to be 2 years ago. It's supposed to be the case.
No, I mean, like that it was hitting this year.
Yeah,
and I will never see that bottle. So,
oh yeah.
It's going to be one of those.
Yeah,
it'll disappear behind a shelf, behind a counter, real quick to somebody.
Oh yeah. You'll never it's one of those.
But it'll be phenomenal. It'll be phenomenal.
You'll never even see a bottle in person. Yeah. And here's
I may see it because
I was talking to Bryan about this. Is like their Buffalo Trace, or at least Sazerac's. Well, Buffalo Trace, their oldest aged barrel proof rye is 6.5 years. That's it. So like typically E.H. Taylor is barrel proof is like what, 8 years at least, I want to say.
That sounds right.
It's older than 6. So like for Buffalo Trace to have a little bit older, potentially a little bit older barrel proof rye, holy crap, it'd be so good.
Yep.
And it was like 124 proof, I want to say, something like that. This has got oakier on the nose the longer I've had it out.
Yeah. So for me, and this is a thing that doesn't exist, but I think now it should exist, is barrel aged fruit stripe gum.
Oh yeah, like the zebra one.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I remember that.
Where
you had tattoos on the thing.
Mm-hmm. You could put it on you, and yeah.
I love those days.
Sweet oak.
Right. Yep, sweet oak. Definitely fruity. Appley fruity. Not so much berry fruity to me. Yeah.
Now, is it a green apple or is it a red apple?
Baking red. Ooh. Interesting. All right. First impression on the palate. Now I'm going to take another sip. Okay. Better the second sip. Oak, sweet, white sugar sweet, but not bright sweet, if that makes sense. Like it's like it's not brown sugar, but it's also not like super bright. There's oak sweetness, baking apple sweetness, but then it goes pretty light. I don't know what your thoughts are. I think this is kind of, I don't think it's bad, but it's just watery. Like that's my biggest complaint, is this is a little bit watery to me.
Yeah, I think it's always anything sub 100 I start getting into that realm, because it does have enough pucker to it to add moisture in your mouth, right? So you're watering it down with your own saliva, which is a gross thing to think about, right? You're proofing with your own saliva.
I love it.
So it's going lower than that proof, but I don't know. It's less oak for me and more tobacco, but not like pipe tobacco, not like smoking tobacco, but it's like in Kentucky, we hang tobacco.
Yeah.
Cure it.
What do they call it?
Air cure it. So there's two different types. There's air cured. There's air cured, and then there's fired tobacco, like dark fired tobacco.
Yeah.
It's not that. It's the air cured side, which is more familiar for like North Carolina and Virginia. You guys air cure as well, where you just hang it up and let it dry out, and it gets like a sweet, sticky, tangy smell to it later on. It almost smells fermented.
I could dig that. Actually, I think that's a great note. And you're right. It's not like pipe tobacco or like cigar tobacco, where it's like a little bit more oomph. Like this is kind of like airy in the tobacco kind of feel to me.
Yeah, because usually those pipe tobaccos or cigar tobaccos get an additional like thickness to them that this doesn't have.
I dig that note. It's a really great
The
note.
longer it sits, I got it like a honey. There's like a honey. It's maybe like 15 seconds after you take a sip and swallow.
Also another great note, like a rich kind of honey. I'm with that, and you're right. It's not off the front; it's kind of off the finish. You get this nice, smooth honey. Yeah, I like that. All right, I got some water. You got water?
I do have water.
Nice.
I actually already mixed my water in.
Oh, no. Nice. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what 94.4 proof does with a few drops. Give it the old spin J. Great nose. Dare I say better nose?
No, I agree.
A little more bright.
Mm-hmm.
The fruit is more fresh. Freshly cut apples. Yeah.
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to steal your apple from the first one, right?
Oh,
like,
nice.
There's the tartness, the sweet tartness that comes off of a cut apple. Like,
yeah.
If you were to smell the knife, which is a weird thing to do, right? But you just cut it. And you're like, I imagine it because like when I was a kid, my grandmother would like cut an apple and then leave it on the blade and hand it to you, and so you're smelling it as it was fresh, you know, which is a terrifying thing for like a 5-year-old. Like, let me try to eat this piece of apple off of a sharp knife, but you know,
my parents wouldn't even let me like lick the peanut butter off of a butter knife. They were like, "That's dangerous." I'm like, "Come on, let me live a little." So you get when you have 3 older sisters.
The honey's caramel now on the finish instead of at honey. It's a more of a darker caramelly for me.
The oak is, great. Like at the 10, like at the 0 to 10 scale of the finish, you know, like the palate to the finish. At a 10, really good notes. Reminds me a little of the fruitiness you can get from a tin cup tenure. Have you ever had the tin cup tenure? Oh, dude. It's great.
I keep walking past it at the store.
Don't.
That's my fault.
It's like $55 or something. It is the best sub 90 proof that I've ever had. Yeah. But it's like, it's full of fruit, but it's also like somewhat light, but it's like not overwhelmingly watery or like too cut, you know?
I don't understand how I do understand. Like, I understand it's chemical, it's a solution or whatever, but the watered down version tastes more full.
Yeah.
Than the foolproof version.
I actually agree with that.
And it has me like curious to what ice is going to do right now.
Totally.
Usually it's a downward scale. It's like neat, then water, then ice, or sometimes ice and water can transpose each other. But
it can, and it always throws you off too. But with bourbon, it's always a risk with ice. Like it's like you never know what the ice is going to do for you. Usually it's bad for bourbon. Like Irish, pretty much always a win.
Right.
Certain single malts can be a good win. But bourbon is the most risky, in my opinion.
It's usually the easiest way to get a bunch of really, really tannic oak out of a whiskey is to add water to it. You get rid of some of the sweet flavors and you get the bitter.
Synthetic chocolate notes and stuff like that. I hate that note. Yeah. For some notes I can dig of the chocolate, but like when it's like a synthetic, like too spread out chocolate, it's not good.
Now I'm going
all right, last sip
back and forth between the two.
Water. Not bad. I agree. It's a little more flavorful. There's a little more. It's actually not as light with water. Here goes my ice. Uh-oh. I got a big chunk. That's all I got. I either have a big chunk or a bigger chunk. We're like all.
So I had somebody deliver me some ice while you were chatting just a minute ago, and the first ice that so Maya's not.
Should I bleep that out?
No, it's fine. Okay, this is the first ice that I got.
Oh dang, that's so sweet of them. What a sweet girl. You're like, you better get back in that kitchen, get me a real piece of ice.
So I said I need a smaller piece of ice, and she came back with one of the big cubes that we use for cocktails, which also will not fit here. And so she made 3 trips. She's a good kid.
Now you got to break it.
No, she made the 3rd trip with the regular piece of ice.
What a great little girlie. Was it the older or the younger?
Older. My youngest child is at camp right now, so she won't be back until Friday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon.
That's exciting.
She's been gone since Monday. This is her first overnight camp.
That's exciting. You know if she's doing all right?
No clue. No clue. No contact unless things are going bad. So it's like a 35-minute drive from here, so it's not really concerning. 2 years ago, when my oldest child was at that same camp, we got a call from them, but that's because one of the kids in the cabin tested positive for COVID, and they were like, "Hey, what do you want to do?" Now she had her vaccine and booster, so they're like, "She can stay if she wants to," and so her and another girl got to stay, and there was like 2 people in a 15-person cabin, so they got it was the best for them.
That's great. So she didn't even get COVID, I'm sure.
No.
Yeah, that's great. Dude, you remember COVID? That was crazy.
It really was. It's going to be this thing as long as we don't have another moment like that in our history. Like 20 years from now, I'm going to be like, you remember that time when we were all just home for like 9 months?
Dude.
Everyone learned how to ride a bike and grew a beard.
And make sourdough bread. Yeah.
There's still some sourdough alive. I can't wait for somebody to be like, this is my COVID sourdough in 20 years. You know?
No, I have a 4.5-year-old sourdough now. Yeah.
Nice.
Starter, at least. Yeah. Yeah. Started in April 1st, 2020.
the 2 weeks to flatten the curve. It's going a little more piney for me and less oak.
Yeah, that's a great point. The oak is disappearing.
And not in a bad way. I'm
not getting piney, but I am noticing it's a lot less oaky.
Yeah. Pine can often be like the thing that people are like, oh my God, that's terrible. I don't mean that, but like.
Sometimes I'll say cedary.
Yeah.
Ooh, John. This ain't bad. I mean, it's not better. No, it might be better. Holy crap, that finish. And my large piece of ice wasn't that bad.
I feel like this is a rare instance of a low proof whiskey that could hold up the ice over a long drink. You know, I mean, there's not many low proofers that can.
And it's weirdly complex, like different notes you can get. Like that first, like maybe like out of the 0 to 10 like range of maybe at like 8, it got really, really good. But by 10, it's like not as good. But it's still like impressive for ice.
For something so wet, it is slightly drying for me.
So, John, random digression. You're a man of lack of hair sometimes, and yet your head is not as shiny as mine is right now. What up with that?
So it's probably the light that I'm using more than anything, right? So I have these flat lights that have a soft diffuser on them, so it doesn't give me a straight one. And it's got a little clamp that it mounts onto my desk, and there's one here and there's one here, and I can move them.
Ooh. Yeah. Okay, I'm on it. Plus, I gotta. Your camera looks a lot better than mine.
This is a webcam.
Really, mine is too, but mine's like an expensive webcam.
Which one? What do you got?
Logitech, some Brio or something.
Same.
So yeah, okay.
It's the same.
So camera. I just have terrible lighting.
Yeah. Are you using an incandescent bulb in front of you?
No, I have a semi-soft, flat light or something like that.
But... Now it's got 3 colors. It's got the thing. I can get a little more skin tony here.
Ooh, that's the white / bluish. Ooh,
this is the whitest one that comes in, and I can. This is a nightmare of an episode for whoever's editing this. We're just playing with lights for now.
I think I'm good with this one, but yes, I'm very impressed with this whiskey on ice. I might drink. It's with ice.
Yeah, I'll say this is the rare situation where it's going to be like, I'm bearing the lead here. It's water, ice, neat for me. Neat comes in dead last right now. And the thing is, and we talked
you.
about this a little bit earlier, but when I taste, I try to do things 3 times so that way I can like remove anything.
Yeah.
I'll come back to this. I've got enough left. I save some. Come back to this and see if it's just today for me.
Yeah.
But there's 2 of us that are somewhat agreeing, and it lends me to believe this holds up really well to water and ice.
That's sweet. Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you with the water ice neat too, because the neat like, yeah, it was a little bit too watery, which is funny, when you actually consider what's actually happening. Yeah, I dig it. Let's give it a rating. What do I rate this? Okay, I have a rating. Do you have something in mind?
Hold on, let me write it down so I can't.
Okay, so you're not swayed by me.
Yep. So okay. I'm rating my favorite of the 3.
Yes, that's how we do it. Yep.
Just making sure.
No, for sure.
I don't need to do a composite where I rate all 3 of them and then average the score out. I can't do that mental math.
That's your favorite. Right, whatever was best. I'm gonna go. I'm not even gonna break 9 here. This is not Hubbard or what, but this is 8.8. Very good bourbon. Impressive how it does better with ice and water. I highly recommend if you have they're single barrels, you never know. But if you have a 24A range barrel, maybe try it out with some ice. Very impressed, personally. Great pour. I love appley fruitiness. Love that stuff. I can eat that stuff all day, but it just didn't blow my mind. So I'm going to keep it right below 9 at 8.8. What about you?
See, I sit at an 8.4, 8.5, and if I was to do it a half, I'd be 8.4.5. And if I put the context on it, for me, this is absolutely a buy. If I saw this, regardless, I would buy it. Right?
I forgot to say 180-ish retail.
The number that's always in my head is $10 a year, but I also acknowledge that this is tough to find, and at 180, it wouldn't hurt my feelings to own this bottle. Still knowing it's a single barrel.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's a murder bottle. Like you can commit murder with this bottle. So it's, multi-purpose. And, I say the neat is my least favorite, but I'm still probably keeping it right at above an 8 barely. Yeah. Right. So it's probably like 8.4, 8.3, 8.1 is how I would probably split it.
Appreciate that. Yeah. I like that. Well, sweet. Now that we've gotten to our ratings, I guess it's time for our next segment of the show, one that we like to call Whiskey World News. All
right, so when we began earlier, I gave Cole the option of 2 things. Let's talk about either Mount Rushmore or Colts. And today he chose Colts. So, honestly,
I'm into Colts.
Are you an Office fan?
I was for the first 2 or 3 seasons, and then it's a long story. Quick digression. I got a ticket on the way home from something to like I got a speeding, like it was like a infraction ticket, and I never watched another episode after that.
Has that kept you ticketless since then?
Yeah, I've never gotten a ticket since then. Yeah.
There's an episode where Creed's talking about Colts, and he's, they're more fun as a member, but they're more lucrative as a leader.
Oh, so, I love that. I think that was on one of the first seasons. Yeah.
So the article that I found, and this is from Food and Wine, foodandwine.com.
Yeah. Okay.
A guy named Bryan Friedman. Don't know anything about him. I've not really even read much about Bryan before. But the title of the article is a little bit misleading to the content. It says, "Stop wasting your time on rare whiskey and drink these instead." Basically, they asked a bunch of bar pros on what they thought were their like best cult tier bourbons that are out there. And it also kind of tied into a conversation I was having with a TikTok influencer a little while back. It was like, there's a handful of brands that most of us all kind of vacillate around, but we don't talk about them too loud, so we can keep finding those bottles on a regular basis, right? Like you've got a few that you probably are like, don't mention it out loud too much.
Yeah.
So we're going to expose those. We're going to say what those things are today. But from this article, and I'm not going to read all of it, I'm just going to kind of give you the highlights and ask you your impression. So these are the best cult whiskeys that you. Angel's Envy Bourbon.
Okay.
Barrel Craft Spirits Gray Label.
Okay.
Ben Holliday's 6 year.
Yep.
Booker's Buffalo Trace. Elijah Craig Small Batch. Hakata 12-year Japanese. High West Midwinter Nice Dram.
Nice.
J. Reiger Monogram Whiskey. Locklear. And Suntory Hibiki Japanese Harmony.
Okay.
What do you think about that list?
It's definitely from the ones I have tried, I agree.
Do you think that I guess maybe
they're not culty though? Not all.
Is Angel's Envy, Booker's Buffalo Trace, and Elijah Craig's Small Batch culty?
No, not at all.
Those are like Angel's Envy is its own thing, but the rest of them are premier distilleries, heritage brands.
Yeah.
And Angel's Envy's been around long enough that everybody knows who that is.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
If I were to strip it down, then we're saying Barrel Craft Gray Label, Ben Holiday. I don't even want to say Booker's. Hakata, High West Midwinter Nights Dram, J. Reiger, Reiger, Locklear, and Suntory Hibiki.
What's Locklear? Is that a
It's a single malt scotch. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And it's not bad. I've had that before, but it's not bad.
No. Those aren't
how would you define a cult whiskey? How about that? How would you define a cult whiskey?
It's gotta be like you were even saying, it's like, hey, don't talk about it. It's like, hey, I'll share it with you, and I know you won't corner the market in terms of purchasing it. I know you won't make it a too big a deal. And even Buffalo Trace, that so doesn't belong in that list, because one, it's a huge distillery. Two, it's decent. Everyone knows it's a pretty decent product. But then three, it's also really hard to find. So
it disappeared from shelves for 2 years. It can't be a cult if
it's got to be somewhat attainable. You can go to 5 liquor stores and at least find it twice. Right. That's kind of my thought of cult whiskey. Yeah.
I think Ben Holiday belonged on the list 6 months ago. I don't think it belongs on the list anymore. I think
they've really earned their spot.
Whiskey nerds know about it. I think a lot of whiskey nerds know about it. But some of the other ones, the High West Midwinter Night Dram, I don't know. That's all over social media on a regular basis.
Yeah,
but
and it's probably their biggest following in terms of
it's their best whiskey that they have regularly on the market. At least in my opinion. Although their Burai is probably one of the best Burais that there is.
It's been a while since I've had their Burai. Yeah,
I'll have to send you a sample.
First time I had it was yeah. I had you remember Jefferson's put out something called a chef's collaboration? You remember that?
Yep.
That was the most mustardy whiskey I ever had. It tasted like mustard to me.
Mustard
notes. Yeah.
That may go on the list of notes that I've never ever gotten close to a mustard.
Yeah. I remember trying that at the bar I used to work at. I was like, this is mustard.
The condiment, not the green, right? Because there's mustard greens. You're talking about the condiment, not
no. I'm talking about like yellow mustard. Yeah. Yeah.
Now I want to know. I'm going to go on a long quest to find this bottle, and somebody's going to have a Dusty somewhere, and I'm going to pay a bunch of money to taste mustard.
Exactly. Whiskey. Yeah, and then you'll be like, this tastes nothing like mustard. Cole is crazy. Lesson of the day.
I'll never tell anyone, I promise.
That's good.
Honestly,
as long as you don't keep it.
You made it pretty far in Matt Madness, so I don't think I can question your taste.
Hey, that's true. Here. Honestly, John.
Yeah.
I hope you do well this year, because it was such a validating experience that I was like, at first I was like, I'm not really good at this. And then by like I said, I beat last year's champ by 1 point last year.
Right.
Or the year before's the champ. And I was like, maybe I am good at this. And I kind of had to move on past the, what do you call it? The imposter syndrome, and be like, yeah, I know what I'm talking about. I've been in this long enough. Yeah.
Well, you've drank as many whiskeys, if not more, than most of the people that are going to be on that, right? Because you what 300 episodes? Is that what you said?
Yeah, and that alone, I can count at least 1,000 whiskeys that I've had.
So like, because there's at least 600 on 300 episodes, because there's the entry buzz, and then there's the one that you actually drink, right? And then there's everything else you've drank in between. Then, so you got a good resume.
Yeah, some people are just like, I'm just gonna put together. I'm gonna be a creator, and I'm just gonna drink this. And I'm like, no, we're gonna drink a ton of things, and then we're like not gonna advertise well, and then we're gonna eventually just get recognition just because we've been going for 6 years.
Not gonna advertise well. That honestly may be the tagline to my podcast from now on. Stealing that, it's mine now. Yeah. I keep it.
Not gonna really advertise well, but I'm just gonna keep going.
Right. We're just gonna do this thing because we like doing the thing, and we're not gonna tell anybody. And just maybe they'll find it, maybe they won't.
And every now and then we get free whiskey, so why stop?
Occasionally, a package shows up, and you're like, "Oh, hey, somebody remembered I did this thing."
It's plus it's weekly therapy, so I'll take it.
Right, without a doubt. And you make good friends. This is what I will say, right? So, whiskey podcasters and whiskey social media people are all mostly super nice people, very welcoming, and you can make good friendships out of this. I've got a handful, and I count you guys in this, people that I've made what I consider to be real friends out of these things.
Totally.
Because this is what whiskey's about.
Yeah, and it's like that moment you were talking about, drinking the celebration. It's like it just sticks with you, that kind of stuff, where you're like,
yeah.
Are you guys getting this with me? Like it's a moment, like, you know what I mean? So
yeah, it's an experience, and that's the way it's meant to be done. Now I'm going to go back to this article for just a second, right? So we talked about what we thought didn't belong here.
Okay,
so I'm going to give you the what whiskey would you choose.
I love it.
What is your cult whiskey that would be on here? What did they miss? What's the thing that's missing from this particular article? And I'll start. And this is what stemmed it for me. And I was talking about this, and it's readily available in a lot of places, and it's talked about a little bit, but I know a lot of people that do this podcasting thing and do this social media thing that go through these bottles and just don't, like, they go through 1, 2, 3, 4 of these a year. And when you consider the things that you get and the things that we get in the mail here, that's pretty impressive. I'm going to say that for mine, it's going to be Sagamore.
Okay. Yeah. Maryland.
Sagamore will be a Maryland whiskey, Maryland rye very specifically.
Yeah.
And I think they
Monongahela.
And it was, I'll say this is the other part, is I was between that and the new A. Overholt Monongahela.
Oh, really?
But it's also Overholt, so it's, can I call it a cult? I don't think so. Not yet.
Jim Beam.
Yeah. Yes, too bad. So mine's Sagamore. I say Sagamore, and you could put any Sagamore up, and that would be cult for me.
I love that. Okay. So mine doesn't match yours, and like, you could put any of these guys' product up, but I'll tell you this. And I was thinking about it earlier, and in Virginia, you can find it at every other store. And it has never let me down, and I love it. I mentioned it earlier. Tin Cup 10-year, not anything else. The 14-year is good too, but not anything else from Tin Cup. They're out of like somewhere in Colorado. But Tin Cup 10-year, just perfect, like right up my alley. And not many, like John friggin' Hughes has not tried Tin Cup 10-year yet, so that makes it like culty to me. Is like, once John tries it, he'll be convinced, but like, he hasn't tried it. It's been out for like 2 years now.
I think you're right, though. I think you're right, because there is a very small smattering of people that have followed that, and it buds out. And I think it. Did you try the 10-year before Matt did?
No. Wait,
he's
no.
The high priest of the.
Yes,
he may be the high priest of. Yep. He's the high priest of the Tin Cup cult.
He did.
He was the first person to start talking 90 about
proof.
It. Yeah. So I think you're there. I think you even have a supreme leader of the Tin Cup cult.
Yeah.
I feel like he needs an outfit, a robe of some type. I don't know what it looks
definitely
like.
A robe that has like tassels to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
maybe like all over. Like if he holds his arms out, there's tassels everywhere that sort of look like feathers. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tassels and feathers. Yeah.
You know, my wife can sew. Maybe I'm gonna make this and send it to him.
Dude.
Be like, hey, Cole said you're the supreme cult leader of the 10 Cup cult. So,
and heck, he would take it. He'd probably wear it on a Matt Madness.
I was gonna say
he's worn some crazy things on Matt Madness.
He really has.
Yeah. So I'm glad you have that spreadsheet, like you mentioned. I love that. I think you said
I said there is no spreadsheet like that on my computer. I didn't say it wasn't in the cloud. It's just not on my computer.
Oh, it's in the cloud. But I'm glad. See, this is us, man. You're not an analytics guy. Like you're. I mean, are you? Like in your job?
I'm a product manager, so I spend a good deal of time in analytics and feedback.
Mm-hmm. Now, do you do it yourself, or you get someone to do it for you?
It depends. If I have, if it's too complex, or I have a short enough time frame that I can't do it myself, I will farm it out. But usually, it's going to be me.
That's cool. Dig it. That's great.
Because you never know what extra thing you're going to find while you're digging through it.
Mm-hmm. Before we move on to the next section, I do want to make sure we have results from last week real quick.
Ooh.
From last week's archive. Okay, here we go. Yes. Okay, here we go. So we said, what would be your out of your collection, your personal collection, what would be your go-to, like who gave a better answer, but also what would be your go-to out of your collection birthday pour? I said Stag last week, and Bryan said William LaRue Weller, and I got destroyed 24% to 76%. Makes sense. I think I would rather go William LaRue Weller, but I don't have a William LaRue Weller on my shelf.
You're limited by what is on your shelf.
Exactly. But we got some good write-ins this week. We got a bunch. We got Broesca. He said this year was Springbank 15. Good choice. A nice Campbelltown. But usually it's the Stag Junior, although he says he's running low on them. Marco and AZ said Calumet 16. You know this, John. Is it Calumet? Is that the county? Okay, just making sure it's not like Calumet.
No. We're in the land of Versailles, Kentucky.
That's true. I forgot about that.
We're not pronouncing anything French appropriately.
You know, it's so funny. That's Kentucky for you. In Arizona, not in Arizona. In Colorado, it's got a huge Hispanic influence. But there's this town called Buenos Aires, but it's pronounced. Oh no, it's not Buenos Aires. It's Buena Vista is how they pronounce it in Colorado. Buena Vista.
Yeah.
Which I thought was great. Whiskey Drinker Panda, that's Joey T. That's Glenn Brangie Signet. Nice cap to that nice cork bottle. Goes well with carrot cake. I'm on your team. What's your opinion on carrot cake, John?
I'm not. If it's got a good cream cheese icing, I'm on board.
That's the only
I'm
way.
on board. Yeah. But if it doesn't have a good cream cheese icing, there's a carrot souffle that you can make that's better.
Oh, send me the recipe.
I don't have it. My mother-in-law.
Oh, okay.
She makes it. I don't make carrot desserts
have her send me the recipe.
Gotcha.
I'm allergic to walnuts, but I will forego caring about that to eat a good
how allergic?
cream cheese
itchy
frosting
or like
itchy. Yeah, it's not like I'm gonna go into anaphylactic shock.
You're not an EpiPen.
Yeah, I don't need an EpiPen, but it will get I'll feel my throat, feel it, but I will probably not be able to breathe. But I love carrot cake. We got a 480 whiskey. They responded and said Russell's 13. 480 is Arizona, Phoenix. Sure. Yeah, 804 is Richmond. 484 is Philadelphia area, and then 480 is Phoenix. So
is this just a way for you to tell people all the places that you've lived because you remember these things?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well played.
Yeah. Let me tell you.
Like a humble brag.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. Be like, yeah, I've lived a lot of places. Not a big deal, but I'm a big deal. Paul Clarkson gave a great answer. He says he's got a 2020. Speaking of humble brag, a 2020 George T. Stag on his shelf that he wants to drink for his birthday. I would too. You know what I want to drink on my shelf? Actually, I think I will this birthday. And our birthdays are coming up, John.
Yep.
When's yours? The
15th.
15th. Yep.
15th.
Mine's the 9th. I want to drink the 2021 George T. Stag, which I have on my shelf.
See, I think I'm going to drink the 2019 George T. Stag.
Which one's that?
I don't have the bottle, but I have a sample of it.
Ayo, that was the 116.9.
He did not write. I'd have to look it up.
I think that's 116.9. But if anyone caught the joke, there was no 2021 George T. Stag. So that's what I'm drinking on my shelf. This is great. Bryce Morita, B-side. He said Delbach Ode to Isla version 1. He's still got a little bit of that on his shelf.
Yeah. Milking that bottle.
Did you have some of that? Do you ever try some of that?
I had a sample of it, but I did not have a bottle of it.
So good. Crazy. Kilted 518, that's Miles Ferguson. He says Kings County peated rye, but it probably won't last until my next birthday, which I can respect. And then we got Madtown Marketer. Final answer here. Final response. He said a flight of Octomores from 13 and 14 series. What a baller. Hey, I think we made it through our full episode. No, I think we might have mentioned Ben Klebsig's name already, but if we didn't.
I think so. Now I will say, so I didn't vote on that because I was on vacation and I didn't spend any time on social media, so my
what
bad.
Would you choose?
I probably would have went with the WLW as well. That's what
heck yeah.
And now I've got to think about like from my bottles, right? Because I have the sample bottle, but that doesn't count. That's like cheating, right? That's looking at
some nice bottles back there.
You know, I'm thinking that I might try to finish this 2019 Yellowstone LE.
Is it good?
You know, it was really good, but also I'm just trying to like clear out some bottles. And so it is a limited edition bottle. It's 2019, so now we're at 5 years old.
Is it weeded?
I don't remember. And it wasn't finished either. It was just their LE they did because they started doing the finishes in 2020. They did the Amaro and the whatever else that they've done. So
that's sweet.
Probably that just to burn the bottle down. But I agree with that, Calumet. I just finished a 15-year of that. Those things are really good.
They are really good.
Yeah.
I was surprised because I enjoy. You remember when the Calumet was like a shield shaped bottle? It was almost like a more flat 1792 kind of bottle. I remember those. Those were good.
There's a military brand that's using a similar shaped bottle as they had right now, and I can't think of it. It's like the 101st Airborne.
That clicks, like that. And I forget what it's called. But yes, that kind of flattish shape. Have you seen the new 1792 bottles?
There's a new 1792 bottle?
Look it up. Yeah. They're like, look up new 1792, like small batch. And I kind of dig them. I prefer them to the, current ones that they have.
The ones that take up all the shelf space, period.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm.
It's not showing it to me yet.
They're taller.
Look
it up later.
Oh, this thing that looks like the 175s that they had that were like bananas looking, but
yes, exactly, but like thinner. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's just unfortunate.
So you prefer the shieldy,
No. I don't prefer it. I just don't like this one either. Like I don't think this is an improvement. It may take up less shelf space. That's the improvement. It takes up less shelf space now.
It's funny. What is your favorite bottle like shape? Because I've talked about this before. I like a nice thick base. You know what I'm saying?
I do, but the newer Westward bottles, I really like the design of these guys.
I don't know those.
They're multifaceted like a gemstone.
Oh, you got to. Oh, I love that. Yeah, it's literally faceted.
And it's got almost a coffin shape to it as well, right? Like it did everything.
Not a Thomas More coffin, but it's
See, I'm glad you said that because I was gonna say it did everything that Thomas More wished it would do, and Thomas More is right here, right? Like it is a coffin shaped bottle, but this one's like sort of coffin shaped because it. Anyways, I think that's one of the best bottles that exists on the market right now.
I like that. I'm into like geometry, so I really dig the faceted look. So, well, John, it's been a pleasure, and I hope you will always feel the honor that is the Kentucky Colonel honor, because you earned it. Hey, I didn't lie about anything. For some reason, Andy Bashir was like, this John guy made the cut. So
you may have had to do a little bit of embellishment, and that's okay because it fits the name,
which,
right?
for the record, I don't know if we've mentioned your podcast name this whole episode, so I'm sorry. But if you don't, I hope you check out, if you haven't heard, I hope you check out Embellish Pod, also known as Embellish Podcast. John does great stuff, great interviews, as well as just even the non-interview episodes are amazing. We've talked about it before on the podcast. He is very informative, very easy to follow, and just like you get sucked in a way that's like, I always compare it, and maybe it's not a great comparison anymore, but it's like the NPR version. Like, it's like very informative, and it doesn't go on digressions as much as I do.
Well, no, this is the thing is when you do an interview, it's all a digression, but as long as you keep a common thread, it's fine, right?
Oh,
and I say this on a regular basis. I start off with 15 questions, and usually through the course of an interview, I ask a whole other 15 questions.
Totally.
Like, I rarely get to the original ones that I wrote. Have a notepad,
I'm with you.
do